Why do companies always have to make more money than they did the year before? Isn't that impossible? A few things. 1. A massive company with absolutely no growth prospects would be expected to pump out dividends while its price tracked inflation. Its dividends should be growing with inflation. 2. Most companies are not paying out 100 of generates revenue after cost as dividends. They are investing some of it or all of it, or borrowing to invest more than all of it into growth. A company that kept your profits from last year plus borrowed and invested to expand then didn't expand is not going to please its owners or encourage future owners to pay more for the company. Not many companies are in stage 1. Arguably more should be not because they can't find some side business to try to grow in, but because if there's no real link to the side business, they might be better off returning the profits to the owners and letting them invest it in separate businesses. Short answer: to keep the stockholders happy. They don't always make more money each year. Publicly traded companies issue quarterly and yearly guidance and are expected to have results pretty close to that guidance. Home improvement stocks are a good example of companies lowering expectations during recessions or construction slowdowns. But of course, if the company isn't expecting increased revenue, they usually reward stockholders with dividends. Infinite growth may not be possible, but infinite profits usually are. Look up a stock like AT. It's been a dog for years but still issues a dividend every quarter. Inflation. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. As long as the population and technological capacity for production grows, there is room for demand to grow. People also don't need things to last forever to be beneficial for them. Their plan does not need to work for infinity, it just needs to be productive for a while to be positive for them and their investors. Most big companies have ups and downs, and that is expected even if the goal is growth. I think you were just imagining things being designed to be sustainable forever. But the world is far more volatile than that for a huge number of reasons, both natural and anthropogenic. So things are designed to grow when they can as they can. They have to make more the same reason you as a person do, inflation. If a company gives no or shot raises each year, they lose their best. That money given to employees is an expense. Every company worth its salt does this to retain talent. Also, let's say, like a lot of companies, they outsource accounting and legal. Those firms are doing the same and in turn bill more for services, so said company is again paying more for expenses. Now to your point of always on the up and up, this is primarily a push for public companies as they must bend the knee to investors' owners. If stock prices get fucked, it's not harder to get loans from banks and expand and make the company better. It's a circle of shit. It's because shareholders demand it. If you make the exact same, you lost money. Inflation. If you don't get at least that much more, your wage value has gone down. True for companies as much as it is for individuals. Companies have shareholders. Those shareholders invest in the company with some expectations regarding future earnings. Those expectations are the biggest factor for the price of the stock. If a company is growing quickly, it will have a higher price-to-earnings PE ratio. Slow-growing or declining companies will have a low PE. Companies don't have to make more money each year, but if they do, shareholders will be more rewarded. In the long term, yes, but these are the kind of people who don't care if the world burns in 50 years because they would be dead. Yay, that's what our capitalist system wants. Companies with the mentality of cancer, which ultimately makes for lots of issues. But the idea is that you take the money and run and leave the issues for other people to deal with who can't just buy their way out. Ugerswar has 100,000 they want to invest into a company. Moneyco makes $5 billion in 2023. In 2024, Moneyco makes $5 billion. Big Moneyco also makes $5 billion in 2023. In 2024, Big Moneyco makes $6 billion. Which company does Ugerswar invest that 100,000? Simple answer: yes, it is impossible. However, when your money is backed by debt, you're inevitably locked into a vicious cycle of always generating more real money than the money you fabricate, or the whole system collapses. Investors invest money for it to grow. That money has to grow at a high enough rate. Otherwise, it could just be put into government bonds or something very low risk, low reward. Inflation. $5 billion today is not worth the same as $5 billion last year. And if you're wondering why inflation exists, it's because human population is always increasing. Our needs are always growing, and we're always producing more stuff to meet those needs. Too much inflation is a bad thing, but deflation can happen too, but it causes its own problems. Most economists agree that a healthy economy should have about 2 inflation. Probably because of inflation. The same amount of money is worth less in the future. If your company is still earning the same amount of money after years, it means your revenue has been reduced. So they're probably trying to beat inflation. Because investing is betting on a company's growth and not its revenue. Because people make money buying their stock only if the stock price continues to increase. If the company was just as profitable as it was last year, fewer investors would buy their stock. They would not profit from selling it for the same price they bought it for. Companies have a fiduciary responsibility to shareholders to make profit or growth. They can have losses for a period of time if it can be explained in the best interest for the company. Combine that with inflation, and their revenue must continue to increase to exceed their expenses and plan for future earnings, or at least plan for future earnings while taking losses that are justifiable. Negligent spending or intentional waste during a time of loss could be construed as embezzlement or fraud. If they are a for-profit business and this does not happen, depending on the circumstances, they could face fines, be fired, or even jail time if negligence or mishandling of fund is established.